Chapter 1. The Confession of Silent Stones. The cracking walls of the traditional narrative. There are few structures on Earth so deeply etched into humanity's collective memory, so widely revered, and yet so shrouded in veils of secrecy. The Great Pyramid on the Giza Plateau is the most magnificent, the oldest, and the most mysterious of these rare monuments. As the sole surviving witness of the seven wonders of the ancient world, it has stood intact for millennia by the Nile, watching sunrises and sunsets and the rise and fall of civilizations. Official history defines it as an exalted tomb, an eternal resting place, built for Pharaoh Khufu. Yet, despite the cold weight of this label, the pyramid stones seem to speak in whispers, telling a story far beyond this simple explanation. The first and most striking clue to this story is the absence within the pyramid. It lacks almost everything we would expect to find in a royal tomb. Its walls are not adorned with the vibrant, complex hieroglyphs of traditional Egyptian funerary art depicting the journey to the afterlife, gods and spells. Instead, they are covered in bare, patternless, massive limestone and granite blocks. This silence is an almost unsettling simplicity. Inside, no gold, jewels, precious ceremonial items, or ornate furniture, objects meant to symbolize a pharaoh's power and wealth, have ever been found. Even the most fundamental element, the mummy itself, is a matter of debate and lacks evidence. No mummy has ever been discovered in the Great Pyramid. The mummies recovered from other pyramids, which now adorn museums, mostly belong to later dynasties, placed there subsequently or hidden away. This massive, flawless structure houses at its core a deep, empty chamber and a vacant sarcophagus. This fact begs an inevitable question. Why would one of the most ambitious, complex, and resource-intensive construction projects in recorded history be undertaken for what appears to be an unused, hollow stone box? But the questions do not end there. The structure's architecture and engineering exhibit a complexity and precision that far exceed the functional requirements of a tomb. The Great Pyramid is not a simple pile of stones. It is a geometric marvel that gives the impression of having been designed like a machine. The stone blocks were placed with extraordinary skill, leaving not even a millimeter of space between them, so much so that it is nearly impossible to slide a razor blade between them. The original entrance on the northern face is aligned with uncanny precision to Thuban, the pole star of that era. This astronomical alignment seems less like a symbolic detail one might expect in a simple tomb and more like the setting of a sophisticated observatory or a technological device. The internal structure is even more astonishing. Inside, one finds a massive, steeply ascending ramp with a high ceiling known as the Grand Gallery. 5 heavy granite layers above the King's Chamber, constructed to balance immense pressure and discovered as relieving chambers, and descending passages that plunge deep into the earth, potentially reaching groundwater or a geological energy source. This intricate internal layout seems to serve a purpose more akin to channeling, focusing, or storing some form of energy rather than merely concealing a body. All these anomalies compel us to question a fundamental assumption about human history: the idea that ancient civilizations were technologically more primitive than us. What if progress is not linear but follows a fluctuating course? What if, during certain periods, specific cultures possessed advanced technological knowledge that was later forgotten and only rediscovered centuries later? While this idea may seem radical at first glance, the archaeological record offers hints suggesting it is not impossible. One of the most striking examples is the discovery in the 1930s in Iraq of artifacts known as the Baghdad Batteries. These 2,000-year-old ceramic vessels were found to contain a copper cylinder and an iron rod. Experiments have shown that when filled with an acidic liquid, such as grape juice or vinegar, this setup could generate an electric current of between 1 and 2 volts. This small voltage might not have been enough to power a device, but it is tangible, physical evidence that the basic principles of electrochemistry were known in the ancient world. It is at this point that one of the most extraordinary and controversial theories about the pyramids comes into play. The Giza pyramids, especially the Great Pyramid, were not tombs but massive power plants based on advanced ancient technology. According to this theory, these structures were designed to harness the Earth's natural energy, using its geological features and the physical properties of the materials, to generate electromagnetic energy, amplify it, and perhaps even transmit it wirelessly to the surrounding civilization. This might sound like a science fiction scenario. However, proponents of the theory base their claims on the pyramid's very building blocks, the scientific properties of the materials used, and the monument's geological location. In the next chapter, we will explore how this colossal stone structure could have functioned as a giant machine for generating electricity, by examining the surprising properties of the materials that constitute it. Chapter 2. The Science Within the Stone, the Energy Materials that Constitute the Pyramid. If you want to understand a building's purpose, you look at the materials from which it is made. A steel structure could be an office building or a factory. The use of wood and brick more often points to residential structures. The theory interpreting the Great Pyramid as a power plant starts precisely from this point, moving beyond traditional explanations. Because the stones and mortars chosen to build this colossal monument possess surprising electrical and piezoelectric properties, far beyond ordinary construction materials. This suggests to us that the pyramid was designed not just as a pile of stones, but as a functional machine. Even the limestone blocks forming the foundation of the construction are not simple quarry products. The Great Pyramid was once covered with perfectly angled, casing stones, made of smooth, white, high-purity limestone. These stones were cut and placed so precisely that, when viewed from a distance, the pyramid shone brilliantly, like a massive, smooth crystalline mass, reflecting sunlight like a mirror. A major earthquake in 1303 largely destroyed this outer casing, and the stones were later removed for use in other structures in Cairo. But the function of this casing was not merely aesthetic. This dense, polished limestone layer was a perfect insulator. Much like the plastic coating surrounding the conductor inside a modern electrical cable, it may have insulated the pyramid's internal structure from external influences, preventing any energy generated or collected inside from leaking out. However, what is truly astonishing are the materials used in the pyramid's interior sections and passages. Granite brought from Aswan, 800 kilometers to the south of Egypt, was used to construct the King's Chamber and the 5 massive compartments above it that distribute pressure. Granite is not an ordinary volcanic rock. It contains a high proportion of quartz crystals. Quartz is an indispensable mineral for modern technology and possesses a property known as the piezoelectric effect. Piezoelectricity means that certain crystals, like quartz, generate electricity when mechanical pressure or vibration is applied to them. Conversely, when electricity is applied to the same crystals, they vibrate. This principle is the foundation of quartz watches, audio equipment, and many sensors. Consider this: the weight of the Great Pyramid amounts to millions of tons. This enormous weight exerts immense pressure, particularly on internal structures like the King's Chamber. This pressure may have been constantly compressing the quartz crystals within the granite blocks, causing them to produce a low-level electrical current, much like a quartz watch that is shaken rapidly. Furthermore, the Earth's natural vibrations and even distant sound waves could stimulate these crystals, contributing to energy generation. In this scenario, the King's Chamber becomes not a burial chamber, but the heart of a giant piezoelectric generator. Another critical material is dolomite, used in the pyramid's foundation and on some interior surfaces. Dolomite is a carbonate mineral rich in magnesium, and research has shown that dolomite's electrical conductivity increases in direct proportion to the pressure applied to it, just like quartz. Meaning, the more pressure it is under, the better a conductor it becomes. The dolomite layers in the pyramid's foundation, under the weight of this gigantic structure, could have transformed into a giant conductor. Finally, the mortar used to bind the stones, of which over 500,000 tons were consumed, is not ordinary lime mortar either. Chemical analyses have shown that the composition of this mortar still hasn't been fully deciphered, and modern efforts struggle to reproduce it perfectly. It is incredibly strong, even observed in some cases to be more durable than the stones it joins. This special mortar may not only have held the structure together but also acted as an electrical connection between the stones, a kind of electrolytic bridge. When all these materials, the insulating outer limestone, the piezoelectric granite, the pressure-conductive dolomite, and the conductive mortar, are brought together, the result is not a static monument, but a massive, passive electromechanical system powered by the Earth's energy and activated by vibration. So, how was this system activated, and where was the generated energy directed? Could the answer lie in the depths of the pyramid and its connection to the sky? Chapter 3: The Water of Life and the Celestial Conductor. The hydraulic and atmospheric triggers of the system. To start a machine, an energy source is needed. While the electrical properties of the materials constituting the Great Pyramid reveal its potential as a generator, a dynamic catalyst was required to activate this massive system. At this point, the theory points to two fundamental and interconnected natural forces: groundwater and atmospheric electricity. This duo may have transformed the pyramid from a static pile of stones into a living organism that breathes, vibrates, and produces energy. The ground beneath the Giza Plateau is not a simple rock mass. Geological research shows that a massive underground water layer, an aquifer, lies beneath the area. Even more strikingly, it is thought that the level and course of the Nile River in ancient Egypt were different from today's, and that the river once flowed much closer to the pyramids, with a branch possibly directly feeding the Giza area. These bodies of water could have been a vital part of the pyramid's energy generation mechanism. The descending passage, which goes deep into the pyramid, extending towards the Earth's core, and the subterranean chamber at its end, are critical to this theory. Traditional archaeology struggles to explain the purpose of this rough, unfinished-looking chamber. However, the power plant theory suggests that this passage and chamber were designed to reach, or get as close as possible to, the aquifer. The constant movement of underground water, especially during the Nile's seasonal floods, an event that dictated the rhythm of life in ancient Egypt, would have created immense kinetic energy and vibration. These vibrations would have created a continuous pressure wave on the dolomite layers in the pyramid's foundation and the granite blocks in its internal structure. Recall the piezoelectric effect mentioned earlier. Vibration and pressure would trigger electricity generation in the quartz crystals within the granite. Thus, flowing water may have acted as a massive natural, shaking mechanism. But water's role doesn't end here. Another physical principle comes into play: capillary action. Capillary action is the ability of a liquid to flow upwards against gravity in a narrow space, such as in a tree's veins or within porous stone. The limestone that makes up the Great Pyramid is a highly porous material. According to the theory, water from the aquifer or moist soil was drawn up through these capillary tubes, rising from the pyramid's foundation into the inner parts of the structure. This was a process similar to water reaching leaves in trees. As the water rose, it interacted with the electromagnetic field inside the pyramid, potentially initiating the process of ionization, which is crucial for transmitting electricity. Ionized air, i.e., air containing free electrons and charged particles, is a much more suitable medium for conducting electricity. So, what happened to the energy produced and directed upwards as a result of these complex processes? The answer may lie in the capstone, pyramidion, which has been lost for thousands of years and shrouded in mystery. The top of the pyramid is flat today because this final top stone was likely stolen or destroyed in very ancient times. But why was this stone so valuable? Many Egyptologists think it was made of white limestone, like the outer casing stones. However, the power plant theory suggests a much more impressive and conductive material: gold. Gold is an extraordinary electrical conductor. It is also corrosion-resistant and unaffected by atmospheric conditions. If a pyramid-shaped capstone made of solid gold had been placed atop the pyramid, it would have functioned as the final element of the entire system. The electromagnetic energy rising and focusing within the pyramid would finally reach this golden capstone. The gold, collecting this energy, could then intensely radiate it into the atmosphere, particularly towards the Earth's charged layer, the ionosphere, thanks to its pointed tip. This process might resemble a physical phenomenon known as corona discharge or cold plasma. This scenario makes the pyramid analogous to a giant Tesla coil. Just as in Nikola Tesla's experiments where he released high voltage into the atmosphere to transmit electricity wirelessly, the Great Pyramid might have injected the energy it produced into the ionosphere at a specific frequency using the Earth's natural electromagnetic field. This energy could then be transmitted wirelessly through the air, water, or ground to be captured by other receivers, obelisks or smaller antennas, tuned to the same frequency. This is the most speculative yet exciting part of the theory. So, Is there any evidence for the existence of such a wireless energy network in ancient Egypt? The answer may be hidden on the walls of the Hathor Temple at Dendera. Chapter 4. Evidence of Lost Technology. The inspiration of a genius. No matter how comprehensive a theory may be, without concrete evidence to support it, it risks remaining mere speculation. The power plant theory of the pyramids is not confined to engineering and material science. There are also iconographic evidence from ancient Egypt itself and indications that a genius from a more recent period of history was inspired by this idea, which serve to strengthen this claim. Although this evidence requires us to step outside the traditional archaeological framework, it helps us form a holistic picture. The most striking and controversial visual evidence is a series of carvings located in the crypts of the Hathor Temple at Dendera, Egypt. These carvings depict massive, bulb-like objects containing coiled, snake-like drawings resembling cables, and at the base of these bulbs, there are djed columns and vase symbols reminiscent of a kind of battery or generator. Inside them are human figures holding these objects. Traditional Egyptology interprets this scene as a symbolic and religious myth, such as the sun's journey on the serpent and the raising of the djed pillar, which hold significant places in Egyptian cosmology. However, for power plant theorists, these carvings are a clear depiction of a type of arc lamp or gas discharge tube used by the ancient Egyptians to produce electric light. The snake shape inside the bulb may represent the path of the electric current, the djed column, an insulator, and the vase, an energy store. This interpretation helps explain why there is no abundant evidence of soot-blackened walls or extensive torch use inside the pyramids or other temples. Perhaps an electric source, which produced no smoke and was cleaner, was used for lighting. Another element supporting this theory is the obelisks commonly found in Egyptian architecture. These massive, quadrilateral, pointed stone monuments were often erected in pairs at temple entrances. In the context of the power plant theory, obelisks can be interpreted as receiver antennas designed to capture wireless energy transmitted from a main source like the Great Pyramid. The granite they are made of, due to its quartz content, is an excellent piezoelectric material. Their pointed tops possess an ideal geometry for collecting radio waves and electromagnetic energy, much like modern communication towers or lightning rods. If their peaks had been fitted with a conductive metal coating, perhaps gold or electron, as hypothesized for the Great Pyramid's lost capstone, this antenna function would have been much more efficient. This evokes a network scenario where energy transmitted from the pyramids was distributed wirelessly through these obelisks in cities and temples. This idea of ancient technology seems to have been indirectly corroborated by a genius whose name is synonymous with electricity from a more recent historical period: Nikola Tesla. In the early 20th century, Tesla built his famous Wardenclyffe Tower on Long Island with the dream of providing wireless electrical power to the entire world. Tesla's plan was to make the Earth itself and the ionosphere part of a giant electrical circuit. The tower was intended to pump electricity as high voltage into the atmosphere, into the ionosphere, allowing the energy to propagate at the Earth's natural resonance frequency to be captured and distributed by a similar receiving station on the other side of the planet. The parallels between Tesla's vision and the power plant theory of the Great Pyramid are striking. Location: Tesla carefully selected the tower's site. The pyramids were also built at a specific point where the Earth's magnetic field is strong. A material: Tesla used copper for its high conductivity. The presence of copper is observed in the internal structures of the pyramids and in the Dendera carvings. Design: the Wardenclyffe Tower had a pointed design to concentrate and radiate energy. The pyramids and obelisks share the same principle. Transmission method: both systems appear to aim at utilizing the Earth's natural electromagnetic properties to transmit energy. In his experiments in the early 1900s, Tesla claimed to have lit up the sky like a giant fluorescent lamp. Unfortunately, the Wardenclyffe Tower was never completed due to the withdrawal of financial support from J.P. Morgan and the lack of a tangible commercial output for the project, and it was eventually demolished. Tesla's vision, much like the true purpose of the Great Pyramid, was buried in the mysterious pages of history before being fully understood. Yet, his work provides a strong modern foundation for theories regarding the function of the pyramids. So, when all this engineering, geology, and historical parallelism come together, what conclusion can we draw? Chapter 5. Is rewriting history possible? The unsolved mystery. For thousands of years, these colossal monuments on the Giza Plateau have ignited humanity's imagination and intellectual curiosity. While the traditional tomb theory provides a framework for understanding them, within this framework lie numerous unanswered questions and unexplained anomalies. The idea that the pyramids were advanced ancient power plants is a provocative, ambitious, and holistic alternative born from these very gaps. Behind this theory lies a broad spectrum of evidence, ranging from material science and geology to iconography and modern engineering principles. However, like every radical theory, it faces intense criticism and legitimate questioning. Summary of the theory and its compelling logic. The theory is based on a series of logical steps. 1. Materials. The pyramid was not built from randomly chosen stones. Polished limestone, a perfect insulator, was used for the outer casing. Granite containing piezoelectric quartz for the inner chambers and shafts. Dolomite, whose conductivity increases under pressure, for the foundation and some parts. And a mortar, whose composition is still not fully understood and is stronger and more conductive than the stones, was used. This combination points to a structure with optimized electromagnetic properties rather than a tomb. Energy source. The system may have been powered by two main natural sources: vibrations from groundwater and the Nile, to trigger the piezoelectric effect, and the Earth's natural magnetic field. Water rising via capillary action would have ionized the internal air, facilitating energy transmission. 1. Transmission. The energy produced and focused within the pyramid was directed into the ionosphere via the lost golden capstone, pyramid ion, and from there, transmitted wirelessly using the Earth's natural resonance to receiver antennas like obelisks. The bulb-like carvings at Dendra could be an indication that this energy was used for practical applications like lighting. 2. Modern parallel. Nikola Tesla's Wardenclyffe Tower project bears striking similarities in its basic principles to the proposed functioning of the Great Pyramid. This is a strong supporting point, showing that the theory is not technically impossible but may be based on forgotten knowledge. Criticisms and the traditional perspective. Mainstream archaeology and Egyptology largely reject this theory. The main criticisms are: lack of direct evidence. There is no generator, cable, or complex electrical circuit found inside or around the pyramid that would directly prove the theory. The Dendra carvings are traditionally interpreted as religious/mythological, and considering them as light bulbs remains speculative. Archaeological context. All other archaeological findings in Egypt, burial chambers, funerary practices, expressions in texts, support the idea that pyramids were tomb monuments. There is no written text or clear instruction supporting the power plant idea. Occam's razor. According to this principle, the simplest explanation is usually the correct one. The pyramids being massive tombs symbolizing the divine status and power of Egyptian kings is a much simpler and more contextually appropriate explanation than a complex energy technology theory. Risk of speculation. The theory risks taking independent facts, the piezoelectric property of granite, the conductivity of gold, the presence of groundwater, and constructing a narrative by establishing an unverifiable causal link between them. This could be an example of the logical fallacy known as confirmation bias. Conclusion: an open-ended mystery. So, in light of all this data, what conclusion can we reach? Reaching a definitive judgment does not seem possible at this time. However, the primary value of the power plant theory is that it forces us to think and question. This theory reminds us that history may not be linear. It suggests that human history may not be a straight line constantly moving forward, and that technological knowledge can be lost and later rediscovered. That we should not underestimate the wisdom of our ancestors. It shows that ancient civilizations may have had a much deeper understanding of natural laws and practical engineering solutions than we think. Of the importance of questioning dogmas. It proves that even explanations accepted for centuries need to be re-evaluated with new perspectives and interdisciplinary work. Perhaps the pyramids should never be forced into an either a tomb or a power plant dilemma. Perhaps they were multifunctional structures. In addition to being a pharaoh's eternal resting place, they may have also been an observatory, a cult center, and perhaps the product of an ancient technology that interacted with the Earth's energy in ways we do not yet fully understand. The Giza pyramids persistently refuse to give a final answer. Their stones, with a resonating silence, wait for us to test the limits of our own knowledge, technology, and imagination. They will continue to stand as a gateway opening not only to the past but also to undiscovered possibilities regarding human potential. Prying this door open might help illuminate not so much our past, but our own future.